Luchosaurus and AEW are being sued after it was alleged by a designer that copyrighted designs are being used for the Luchasaurus mask on AEW television. The Briscoes were infamously banned from AEW. Some assumed it was because of Jay Briscoe's controversial past tweets. However, new reasons have come out as to why the Briscoes were banned, and it's not just because of the late Ring of Honor star's previous comments. We have the ratings for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. Kenny Omega was not at Dynamite this week, and he was not at any AEW television tapings. We have the reason why he may not be at the tapings next week either. Wardlow has been written off of AEW television. We have the reason behind that. And AEW announces a multi-year major streaming deal with DAZN. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Let's start off talking about AEW being sued. It's not just Vince McMahon. It's not just Vince McMahon that's being sued in the world of pro wrestling at the moment, because AEW and specifically AEW wrestler Luchasaurus have been served papers after they have been sued, alleging that the mask worn by Luchasaurus is using copyrighted designs. AEW star Luchosaurus, he's been served with a lawsuit. A lawsuit was filed in December 2022 over the copyright for the design of ring gear worn by a top AEW star. As reported by WrestleNomics, Composite FX LLC, also known as CFX, made a legal complaint that was dated December 20, 2022 against All Elite Wrestling and Austin Mattelson, also known as AEW's Luchasaurus. The lawsuit, filed in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Louisiana, claims that AEW and Mattelson are using a copyrighted mask design for merchandising purposes without the permission of the designer. The designer states that even though it is authorized, or it did authorize Luchasaurus to use the mask as a performer, neither he nor AEW were authorized to create and sell merchandise incorporating the design. The plaintiff writes, quote, Mattelson was entitled to use the mask in events as a wrestler, but neither he nor anyone acting on his behalf were entitled to create merchandise that incorporated the mask design, end quote. In support of the lawsuit, the plaintiff presented examples of the mask design depicted on AEW merchandise advertising, including the design being seen on t-shirts and action figures. The company claims that this infringes on the copyright on its design. According to the complaint, Mattelson worked with the design company around December 2016 to have a modified version of what the designers call the Viper silicone mask. The mask design would be modified again in March 2019, adding horns to the mask. According to email records included with the lawsuit filing, Composite Effects learned that Mattelson signed with AEW in 2019 and would try to come to a licensing agreement with him. It was also reported that Composite Effects and AEW personnel communicated in February 2021 to create a new mask, which AEW bought the rights to and was shipped in August 2021. This new mask design, it is reported, was either not used much or not used at all. In relation to this mask design, the contents of an email was included in the lawsuit. In the email, Mattelson writes, quote, Hey man, thanks for the work on the new mask, but after getting a look of it on my own face, Tony and I agreed my current mask is just too iconic at this point, we can't change the face, end quote. The Tony in question would be naturally Tony Khan, AEW's CEO, president, and head of creative. The plaintiff asserts that they wrote further messages to AEW and Mattelson in 2022, asking them to stop using the design or come to a licensing agreement. No deal was made, and the design was still used on AEW merchandise. Composite Effects also included a written declaration from George Frangadakis, another designer, stating that Mattelson approached him in January 2022 to engage him in the design of a mask similar to the one for which Composite Effects holds the copyright. According to Frangadakis' statement, Mattelson and an associate known as Jet wanted a, quote, near replics of CFX's custom design mask. Frangadakis said, quote, It was clear there were legal issues that needed to be handled prior to my designing a new mask for Mattelson. The designer would then offer to make a mask that didn't resemble the copyrighted CFX mask, but wouldn't be contacted again by either Mattelson or, in brackets, Jet. Composite Effects is seeking profits from AEW that have been made in relation to the alleged infringement, other damages sustained as a result from such, an attorney's fee. Now, whether or not this will lead to anything, I don't know. Just reading it there, and again, this is the key thing with all of this, I am not a legal expert, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know a lot about copyright law, I don't know a lot about merchandising law, so I can't tell you whether or not there is merit in this. One would think And the devil's in the detail when it comes to this kind of stuff, but one would think if there was a declaration, you can use that mask to be a wrestler, that's fine. It's another thing to use that mask or that design on merchandise, on action figures, on T-shirts, on you name it. That's a different kind of kettle of fish. And it would appear that it's not like this design company has come out of nowhere. They've been trying to work with AEW. They've been trying to work with Luchasaurus to get to a licensing agreement, and they haven't been able to get there. And if they have been sent warnings, then this is going to be interesting. We're living in a world where WWE and Randy Orton have been taken to court because his tattoos, the designs of his tattoos, were being used in video games, and the designer felt that, hey, they're my designs. I should be getting royalties for them. And I believe the designer won that one. So my guess is either the mask will go, or most likely they'll come to a licensing agreement. They'll come to some kind of settlement. The lawsuit will get dropped and Luchasaurus' mask will remain the same. We'll have to wait and see though. If we get any more updates on this, of course, we'll let you know. Now, of course, this week saw the AEW debut of Mark Briscoe, but more details have been revealed now as to why the Briscoes were banned from appearing on TBS, TNT, or any Warner Media Discovery programming in the first place. Now, Mark Briscoe, as I mentioned, appeared on AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday and took on Jay Lethal to honor the memory of Jay Briscoe, who passed away earlier this month. However, Tony Khan confirmed that he, quote, fought hard to get Mark on the show, as Warner Bros. Discovery executives previously banned them from appearing on AEW programming on TBS and TNT. Furthermore, their reasons for doing so were reportedly twofold. Now, previously, it was noted that WBD had a problem with Jay's homophobic tweet from 2013, for which he apologized several times in the years that followed. In addition to that, he had gone to counseling. He had gone to make amends with several people that he offended. He had genuinely tried to learn from his mistake, grow as a person, and understand more. Now, at first, as I mentioned, it was assumed that Mark had been banned because he was associated with his brother. But in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported that WBD executives also had issues with the Briscoes for wearing the Confederate flag on their gear in the past. Per the Wrestling Observer newsletter article, this is why AEW wasn't allowed to host a tribute show for Jay on TBS or TNT following his death. AEW's deal with WBD means that the media company has the power to ban anyone from AEW programming, so the situation was out of Khan's hand until he convinced the relevant executives to reconsider. It now seems that WBD has relaxed its stance regarding Mark Briscoe showing up on AEW television. Earlier this week, it was revealed that he'd been given the green light to appear on AEW television going forward. Meanwhile, the latest episode of AEW Dynamite featured a tribute video for Jay and discussions about his career from the show's commentary team. Again, it's regrettable that they came to that decision. It's regrettable that they did those things in the past. But as I've said, I think it's important that people are allowed to grow. I think it's important that people are allowed to learn from their mistakes. And I think it's important that people are allowed to show remorse. And the fact, as I've said before, that it had to come to this for Mark Briscoe or for any Briscoe to appear on AEW programming is a damn shame. That really is a damn shame. And it sucks. It sucks that we'll never see the Briscoes on a national stage like AEW. That sucks. That's not fair. And all of this isn't fair. And to be honest, that outrage pales in comparison to losing the life of a father, a husband, and a brother. It's still incredibly tragic and incredibly sad. Now, regarding Mark Briscoe, as I mentioned, he made his AEW Dynamite debut on this week's episode of the show. Briscoe defeated Jay Lethal in the main event, his first match since the tragic passing of his brother Jay Briscoe just 8 days prior. The match came after Tony Khan reportedly pushed hard to WBD executives to feature the Briscoes on the show, as they were previously banned from appearing on TNT or TBS. Now, Ring of Honor announcer Caprice Coleman took to Twitter following the show, where he shared a video with Mark following his Dynamite appearance. Mark spoke to his family and said he will carry on for Jay. He said, quote, "You already know family has been beyond important to me in my life. 23 years, me and my brother have been riding the roads, making towns, hitting different countries. Ain't no way I've been wanting to do this for this long if it ain't have my boy with me this whole time. Now it's time to carry on for him. Family is beyond. This life is temporary. Let's focus on the eternal, not the temporal. My brother ain't with me, as he normally has been and normally would be. He's still with me right here," points to his heart. "He ain't gone. If I thought he was gone, I wouldn't be no good. I know he ain't gone. I know he just moved on to the next high level of existence. That's what keeps me going and keeps me pushing forward." So Mark Briscoe, he's not going anywhere, and he's going to keep on wrestling to keep the memory of his brother alive, which I think is entirely commendable. Speaking of Mark Briscoe, we have the ratings for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, and AEW Dynamite for the first time in a while got over 1 million viewers. Wrestling fans showed up for AEW Dynamite this week to celebrate and honor the life of Jay Briscoe. WrestleNomics released viewership information for Wednesday night, and the January 25th episode got 1.003 million viewers, which is up 4% from last week, and the first time the program has averaged over 1 million viewers since October 5th to be specific. Now, from a key demographic standpoint, Dynamite was watched by 417,000 viewers aged 18 to 49, earning a 0.32 18 to 49 rating. This also gives the key demo a 4% boost from the prior week. Dynamite ranked at number 3 for cable originals in the key demographic, only behind 2 NBA programs on ESPN. Compared to 1 year ago, Dynamite is down significantly in all measures, though. The January 27, 2022 episode of AEW's flagship program had a total viewership of 1.1 million viewers, 9% more than this week. The key demographic is also down by a whopping 24%, as last year's episode drew a 0.41 key demo rating. And as I said before, this is what's interesting to me, because I saw this discourse on social media of people saying that, the product's not cold, the episodes of Dynamite have been great, but the episodes of Dynamite have been a really fun watch. But I think when people are talking about the product being cold, it just doesn't feel as must-see. And I think that's the key thing. It's not as if the show's bad. The show's not bad. I thought Dynamite was good this week, but it's not as must-see, and the ratings reflect that. This time last year, it was 1.1 million viewers, and the key demo, that's the key thing. The audience, the younger people in the audience are tuning out, and this is meant to be the company that had the sort of the youngest audience, which was key in terms of advertisers. And again, it shows that the ratings, the numbers are down. Kenny Omega was absent from this week's edition of AEW Dynamite. He also wasn't backstage at the show. We've also got the reason as to why. On the January 25th edition of AEW Dynamite, as I mentioned, Mark Briscoe made his debut for the company, defeating Jay Lethal in a tribute match to his late brother Jay Briscoe. Now, following the match, the entire All Elite Wrestling locker room emptied, with many of the stars wearing Jay Briscoe Memorial TV shirts and giving both men a round of applause. Conspicuous by his absence was current AEW World Trios Champion Kenny Omega, and as per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, the former AEW World Champion wanted to be there very badly, but has been battling visa issues and wasn't able to attend. Omega was last seen on AEW television on the January 11th episode of Dynamite, where he teamed with the Young Bucks to defeat Death Triangle in an Escalera de la Muerte, match number 7 of their Best of 7 series, to regain the AEW World Trios Championship. This followed Kenny Omega defeating Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 17 event. Now, when it comes to him possibly showing up next week, again, we'll have to wait and see. Now, when it comes to Dynamite 2 this week, there were quite a few changes reportedly made for the show because of the Mark Briscoe match, because of the Mark Briscoe debut. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, the Jay Briscoe tribute went off well, and many things were changed to accommodate it on Dynamite. Now, prior to Tuesday, it didn't look like the tribute or Mark Briscoe's match was even going to be happening, but AEW moved many things around to make it a reality. Ian Riccoboni, of course the commentator for Ring of Honor, was booked for the show Tuesday and flew in just hours before the show itself. Darby Allin versus Buddy Matthews, of course, that TNT Championship match was originally supposed to main event the show and had some time actually trimmed in order to make room for the Mark Briscoe versus Jay Lethal match. Now, Fightful are also reporting that the Guns/Acclaim video was also longer and it was trimmed to make some time. One source actually told Fightful Select it was impressive how they were able to provide Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal as much time as they needed without compromising anything else that was advertised. Those that Fightful spoke with were very happy with how the show turned out. As I mentioned, Kenny Omega wanted to be there. He has been battling visa issues. FTR had already scheduled to be backstage at the show. They were there also because of their legendary rivalry with the Briscoes too. Dalton Castle was at the show and came to sit front row to cheer Mark Briscoe on during his main event match against Jay Lethal as well. As far as Omega being there, they hope he's going to be back next week, but again with this visa process, it's bureaucracy, so they really don't know. Now, Wardlow, we haven't seen Wardlow in just a hot minute, have we? And it's actually because he's injured. Now, Wardlow has been absent since the December 28th New Year's Smash edition of Dynamite, where he lost to Samoa Joe in the main event for the TNT Championship. Now, a lot of people at the time said, what a strange move. It felt like Wardlow was definitely going to win that match, and he didn't. And everyone said, well, Wardlow is being booked as this sort of Goldberg-esque power figure, dominating everyone, dominating MJF, dominating Scorpio Sky, but then he lost the TNT Championship to Samoa Joe, and then he lost on the New Year's Smash edition of Dynamite, and everyone said, what bad booking. Now, after the match, Samoa Joe attacked Wardlow and cut off his ponytail, and he hasn't been seen since. And the reason for that was revealed in today's Wrestling Observer newsletter. According to Dave Meltzer, Wardlow's absence is due to an injury issue, and the reason for the post-match angle with Joe was for Wardlow to be written off of TV to recover. Now, Meltzer mentioned the injury isn't expected to keep Wardlow out of action for a long time, but it has done from December 28 until now. We don't know how long, we don't know what it is, but now that does make a bit more sense. And it just goes to show sometimes when we criticize these things, there is some method to the madness sometimes, because it felt just Wardlow had to win that match, and the fact that he didn't make a lot of sense at all. Seemingly it's because he's injured with what, again, we don't know. When he's going to be back, we don't know. Hopefully, certainly it's soon. Finally, AEW has announced quite a big major streaming deal, actually. AEW yesterday announced a major multi-year streaming deal with DAZN. The agreement will bring AEW Dynamite, Rampage, Battle of the Bouts, pay-per-views, Dark, and Dark Elevation to the service in 42 different markets across Europe and Asia. Per AEW, quote, DAZN announces multi-year, multi-territory exclusive broadcast deal with All Elite Wrestling. DAZN Group announced that it has secured exclusive broadcast rights to top American professional wrestling promotion All Elite Wrestling in a multi-year agreement that will bring its premium matches and entertainment to DAZN subscribers in 42 markets across Europe and Asia. It go on to talk about AEW and its roster, its impressive roster, but effective immediately, the Red Hot promotion will add more than 200 events annually to DAZN's ever-growing schedule, including AEW Dynamite, AEW Rampage, Battle of the Bouts, AEW pay-per-views, Dark Elevation, and AEW Dark. The introduction of AEW to DAZN's schedule is another major addition to the breadth of multi-sport content available on the platform and further cements DAZN as a growing global home of combat sports. Now, the countries in which this will be involved and be available in, AEW will be available on DAZN in the following countries: Albania, Alderney, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Faroe Islands, Finland, Georgia, Gibraltar, Greece, Guernsey, Hungary, Iceland, Janmayan Islands, Jersey, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Republic of Moldova, Romania, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Svalbard, Sweden, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. How about that for the pronunciation? So certainly a very big deal for AEW as they increase their global appeal, as they increase their exposure across the world. And I think it's probably a good move for AEW. But there you go, guys. It's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very